today's guest is, or this afternoon's guest, is a serial entrepreneur.
Yep.
Has sold several businesses. His first for £20 million.
Not bad.
Comes from very humble beginnings, actually being in foster care, and has also spent some time at Her Majesty's pleasure. So
Not on a holiday camp.
Not on a holiday camp, not at all. You know, having great experience of startups, you know, what I've seen, a statistic for you is 42% of startups fail because they don't solve a business problem. So I'd like to start on that front. I've got Duane Jackson.
How you doing, Duane?
I am good, thank you.
Good to see you. We're often at these mad events where people place us in a corner and they'll say, tell us about your life story. And you've come down to a room full of us and go, tell us about your life story. But I suppose, where would you like to begin? Where did it all start for you in terms of that idea that you could be an entrepreneur?
So I know exactly where that started. So that was at full prison.
Yep.
So you're saying it, not a holiday camp, full prison was a holiday camp. HMP Butlins.
Comes down to
So the evening in the summer, I remember it was September 2002.
Yep.
So walking around the inside perimeter,
Yep.
well, not the outside, but inside perimeter.
Yep.
And see an advert on the education block for some talk the Prince's Trust were doing. And I'd already been on one course about financial management and worked out, actually, if you'd done this, this and this with the 0% credit cards, you could pay off your mortgage 10 years early. And the teacher was like, no, that ain't right.
It is actually.
So already I'm like, actually, yeah,
And this was in the class in prison?
Yeah, so the informal class. So they've got an education department there where there is formal education during the day, but this was some courses that were put on in the evenings.
Okay.
Yeah.
So some volunteers from the Prince's Trust will come in to talk about the enterprise program that they do. And at that point, my plan, if you like, was I was meant to be getting out of prison, going back to some guy I used to work with, and in a very small business, it was literally me and him, and helping him to grow that business.
What was that business?
So it was originally a IT support type business. So we'd go into companies, there used to be 10 of us, we'd go into companies and we'd do the internal support desk. We were literally the guys, have you turned it off and on again?
Yeah.
That was us.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah, but times got hard and that sort of business declined a bit, and I helped him in the year that I was on bail before going to prison turn that around into a hosting business, which in 99, 2000 was a good business to be in.
So while you were on bail, waiting for this case, you were actually working for him?
Yeah.
And he still took you on knowing that potentially you were going to go to prison?
Yeah, no, so he bailed me out from prison in the States. So this is when we start saying, well, hang on, we've got to go into that.
Hold on.
So I was first arrested in the States, DEA, 6,500 ecstasy tablets in Atlanta, Georgia, and I ended up in prison over there. And Ben was my former employer, heard that I was in prison. He got in touch with the DEA, he came over. My bail was at $50,000. Now, normally, you only have to pay 10% of that if you live in the state. But because I was from the UK, I had to pay the full 50,000.
He must have had some serious
and prison in America's no joke.
And a credit card with a good balance. And him and one of a sort of mutual friend that we had bailed me out, and the condition of the bail from him was that I'll bail you out, but DEA said it's going to be a year before you're back here for sentencing. In that year, you live with me and you work with me. So if I disappeared in that year, he'd have lost his 50 grand.
That's still an opportunity, though. Not many people rock up and say, listen, I'll bail you out for 50K, but work for me. You'd still obviously get a salary as well.
Well, that was the intention, I think. We never really, to me, it's like, yes, just
get
me
out.
I want to go home.
I've found out that sort of 19-year-old boys from the streets in Atlanta, Georgia, don't like it when white boys from London correct them on Tupac lyrics. It doesn't go down. I've learned that lesson. I wasn't doing it
write that note.
Just, take me home.
Let's go back a little bit, because at school, were you always this way inclined? Did you do the typical tuck shop stuff? Like,
no, so you read these stories that you...
you're
I'm sure Richard
was
Branson
a small entrepreneur at 10.
none of that.
What were you into as a kid?
I was into computers, is what it was. So
that was your thing.
So it's still, there is a link.
Yeah, because I ended up in tech businesses, and I do wonder if I was sort of growing up in the 50s or even the 2050s, the opportunities that I found and exploited, for want of a better word, they wouldn't have been there then or in the future. So, but yeah, it's all about technology for me when I was younger. So
you've done that. You've done some bad stuff. You got slap on the wrist. You served time. What did that do for you internally? Was it your chance to focus on education, or think, oh, do you know what, I can't mess up again? Was that the turnaround?
No, so there's a combination of a few things. And one of them I didn't appreciate at the time, probably not until 10 years later, was actually life's got pretty shit now where I am, and scary. And someone pointed out to me 10 years afterwards that I have no fear. I'll go into situations and this could happen, that could happen. I don't think about it because I'm not worried about it because you've already been in some pretty dire situations with DEA pointing guns at you and all sorts of stuff. So there's that aspect to it. There's resilience, I think, that you learn from growing up in care. Accepting of change, moving around a bit. So again, in the care system and the prison system, you can wake up tomorrow and you've been told, pack your stuff, you're moving. You've got half hour.
Yeah.
Just like
you
that.
have no control over your own life. But do you know, and this is my ignorance, what I found interesting about like understanding you as a person, when you think of like drug dealer, goes inside, you have this sort of misconception of what that looks, preconceived idea, what that looks like. Even when I was told, oh, drug dealer, blah, blah, well, what does a drug dealer look like?
You should have seen my lawyer when I turned up.
Was he shocked? Was
he was waiting for
Yeah, exactly. And he looked at me and was like, you're not the guy.
Are you the wrong guy? Yeah, and it's all of this, what you think a drug dealer looks like. And then on top of that, it's like, okay, usually you think drug dealer, gang. And then when I heard about your story, there's no real gang affiliation. You just wanted to make a bit of money.
Well, in the eyes of the law, it was certainly seen as a gang, I think, and the court saw it as a gang. There was 9, 10 of us all grew up around Canning Town, a lot of them older than me. They were involved with it long before I was, and I volunteered to get involved. I mean, my best mate on
How did that happen? Like, oh, I want to make some money. Can you help me?
So I was actually IT contracting for a couple of years.
Back to IT?
Yeah, there we go, funny enough. And I blagged my way into it.
You're on,
Yeah, blagged me way into an IT contracting by a completely fake CV, but was
How old were you then?
Money. 17, I think.
Okay.
So I'd left care, I had my first flat, stupidly gave up my council flat in Stratford because of the amount of noise in the block. I went and privately rented, which cost a lot more. But so I was working as an office junior at first in Hatton Garden. And ended up looking after all their computers in a small business, 10 people. They were being told, oh, you can't upgrade to Windows 3.11 because this don't support. And I was like, no, of course it does. And I did it, yeah. And I said to Leon, the guy who ran it, and I feel really bad because his place got raided years later.
Oh, no.
We bought our tickets when we were drug trafficking through him. But anyway, that's another story. I'm really sorry, Leon.
No.
But I said to him, look, I'm doing an IT manager's job here. And I know I haven't got the experience, but you'd pay a lot more. And he said, and I completely understand it now, I haven't been in business. He said, look, we can't afford an IT manager. We don't need an IT manager. He said, but rewrite your CV as if you are our IT manager. Go look for a job, and I'll give you a reference that you were our IT manager. And that got me into IT contracting for a couple of years.
And that's the thing, I think, you look at these moments where someone's giving you an opportunity.
Yeah, 2 or 3, maybe 4 or 5 people over the years that just, and I'm not spiritual at all, but these people that just emerge at the right point, do something, and sometimes disappear again into the background.
So from that, then why did you, if you had already been set up, you know, I can be an IT manager now because of this reference he's given me. What made you think I need to carry ecstasy tablets from one country to another?
So 2 things probably. Greed and lack of financial management. So I was earning £50 an hour as a 17-year-old. No clue how to manage my money. So I'm buying my mates pizza and
whatever.
Anything.
You're the guy.
You're the guy.
You're the guy.
What I didn't appreciate is that you get paid really good money because you spend probably half the year not working. So and I wasn't saving none. So I go from having loads of money to having none, loads to none. I was involved with an online pirate radio station. It's a big global community around that. Some girl I got chatting to in New York.
There's always a woman.
Always us.
So I'd gone to New York completely legit a couple of times because when I had the money, I did.
You could, yeah.
But then I'm like waiting for my next contract, and I just finished at Reuters on £45 an hour, I think. And the agent's like, yeah, I've got the next one for you, it's £25. And I'm like, no, I'll hold out. Because I've got another guy over it saying, give me 2 weeks, I'll find you something. So I'm holding out, and I'm getting kind of skint now. And Simone in New York, I haven't seen her for a while. And I knew, I mean, it wasn't a big deal. I mean, people how'd you fall into crime? I grew up around crime. My best mate, Alan, I knew was trafficking stuff out there.
So morally, you didn't see it as a big thing anyway?
In my head, it was ecstasy. Ecstasy was everywhere in the 90s. I never really did it, but it was just everywhere. It wasn't heroin, it wasn't cocaine, as far as I was going. But actually, in the eyes of the law, exactly the same thing. All 3 are Class A drugs. So I said to him, look, can I get involved? If you fly me to New York and give me some money so I can pay the rent, and I get to see Simone, why
and there was no fear there of getting caught. It was just, I want to see my bird, and that's it.
Yeah, but even if I did get caught, they're going to give me a slap on the wrist and send me home, aren't they? I didn't really think about it much beyond that.
You've gone through, you've had the education, you understand about the Prince's Trust have given you some time. Move from there to 20 million. How does that work? Because most people I speak to, they don't understand what business actually is. And it's, for you, you've got a really simple way of looking at how you think or attack certain things in that way. Do you want to
or even saying you were unable to manage £50 an hour. So how did you go then to creating a business and then get it to the point where it's worth 20 million?
Yeah, that's a good point. I haven't really thought about it like that before. And maybe that's part of why I was good at building accounting software, is because I sort of understood the importance of managing that money.
Yeah.
But really, so I got the help from the Prince's Trust, and realised, I can be self-employed, basically. I can start my own business as a web developer, because that's what I was doing anyway, bits of programming. And just
Did you teach yourself?
Yeah. Which is a whole other story in a children's home, kicked out of school, ZX Spectrum.
So you completely taught yourself how to do web developing?
Yeah, programming.
What's really interesting about, sorry to interrupt, actually, a developer these days is generally people that learn code that's been created by somebody else.
They're well-trained.
Learning of a language and pieces of it together. Whereas a developer at that moment in time, you're almost inventing a language yourself.
You're inventing ways of doing things, definitely.
So is it right to say that if you want to start up your own company, it's better to find a niche and create your own understanding of coding, but if you want to work for someone, you need to have the paperwork and education?
I'd say no. Well, no to the latter, definitely. Well, it depends who you work for. Some really care. So for me, when I was hiring, I didn't really care too much about what someone's...
Just show me what you can do.
The amount of people I've had that had degrees that were going to join our support desk that couldn't string a sentence together of written English.
Yeah.
So I really didn't put any weight on that. And other employers, I'm sure, do. But really, if you're going into business, so this was the thing that attracted me to business as well. Given I was going to have this big black hole in my CV, no one's asking for my GCSE certificates when I'm going to quote them.
No one's asked me for anything.
Well, they just want to know, well, what else have you done that's similar to this? And I can point at this I built, that I built, and this is how much it's going to cost, and here's a reference. And OK, great. And you build it, and you've got another person that will give you a reference. And
so was your company Cashflow the first company you made?
No, so it was 7 Tech Solutions was the name. So
look at that name, look at that name.
And I can still see the business plan.
Was that while you were in prison?
That was in Ford, and I remember writing the business plan in Ford, and the logo there, and getting the bent judges and coppers and whatever else that are in. You get a better class of criminal in Ford.
Always.
So they were giving me feedback on the business plan. But at the same time, because of the people that are in there, so I had Ben, who employed me for that year I was on bail, couldn't really afford to pay me. The business wasn't making enough money. I'll gloss over the fact he bought himself a new BMW in that year, and he was off skydiving.
That's more important than paying you.
But and it's hard work for me to get money to go into London to see my friends at the weekend. So when I'm away, I'm getting up to my last few months of coming out. I'm at Ford. This Prince's Trust talk was probably just after what happened next. So I had this contract from him so he said, I want you to have something to look forward to when you get out. So I'm giving you 20% of the company because I couldn't pay you. In fact, I remember he gave it to me just before I went away, and that was what you guys have something to look forward to. And there was glasses of champagne, and you now own 20% of the company. So I've got this paperwork, and I show it to Slizer in Ford. And he says, well, no, it's basically the way this is written. And I now fully understand what that document was. It was an option agreement where I could buy 20% of the company if I wanted to at a certain price. And if I ever left the company, I forfeit it. So it's more handcuffs than anything else. So I've said to Ben, I said, look, I've been told that this is this. And he's like, oh, yeah, it is. The solicitors made me do it. I'll get it changed. I said, all right, can you get it changed sooner rather than later? So I need to know what I'm doing when I get out. Oh, yeah, I will. And he just never did. And then this Prince's Trust volunteers come along. By this time, I was working outside the prison on day release, so I had access to email. And
how long were you in prison for?
2.5 years over here.
OK, so you already had, even though you were in prison, you had already facilitated certain links that would assist your business after you left prison?
In that bit of time at Ford, The first 2 years, no. You're just doing time. And everyone with the quarantine stuff now knows what doing time is. You are literally doing time. Another hour, another day. And that's what the first 2 years were.
In the last year...
success was... because of the time that you spent behind bars rather than in spite of it.
If I hadn't done that, I would now probably have a fairly well-paid job as a programmer somewhere. In fact, a very well-paid job.
You'd have been a corporate man.
Yeah, but I'd have been a good programmer and I'd be earning a good living and probably enjoying what I'm doing, but I wouldn't have had the financial success I've had now.
So let him finish the point. Go on. You're
going
on
the point? I've lost my
so you're going on the journey. You're on the journey. You've seen this piece of paper.
Of course.
It's not worth anything. And then you've said change it, and you kind of haven't. You don't trust people then?
No, I don't. And again, that's something that took me a long time to realise. I'm very slow to trust someone, and I've got a very strong sense of justice as well. So even with my kids, just more my word is my bond. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do something, or that ain't fair, or just So even with my kids, if I promise something, it's happening.
It's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm not promising unless I know 100% I can deliver on it.
But that's an important thing. People don't, particularly people who've made success in business, the fat cats, as it were, they're not, that perception isn't really there where you can be honest and have integrity in business. But you've maintained that all the way through.
Yeah, and one of the hardest parts was when I was selling the business and I couldn't tell most of the team what was going on, because you can't.
You can't. You can't. It's part of the negotiations, isn't it? So go on, carry on.
Well, and it's just a bad thing to do because it knocks everyone off track. And what if it don't go through?
Yeah, they get diverted. So you phoned the mate, he hasn't changed it.
He ain't changed it, and I've said to him, look, I'm going to go and do my own thing when I get out. And he was like, well, first, his immediate reply on the email was "et tu, Brute." So what, you're calling me a traitor now? What are you saying?
But did you say to him, I'm going to do my own thing?
Well, after I give him enough opportunity to change it, and I said, actually, look, you know what, when I get out, I'm not going to come and live with you, I'm not going to come and work with you, I'm going to go and do my own thing. And yeah, his immediate response was "et tu, Brute." And I spoke to him a couple of days later, and he's like, it's not as easy as you think. When you get out, you're going to be knocking on my door looking for somewhere to live. You're not going to be able to put food on the table. Oh, by this point, by the way, my ex-girlfriend, my first girlfriend from when I was a kid, got back in touch. We had day release when I was at Ford. She was now pregnant. So by the time I got out, she was 3 months pregnant. Jeez. So I had a family to support for when I got out.
You're really juggling now.
Well, juggling and also focus, because one of the things I'd seen in prison was these guys that have got pictures of their kids on their wall. And I remember always thinking, I'm glad I ain't that guy. I'm doing my time on my own. I've got no family. I've got no one out there that I'm sort of really close to and missing. These older guys got pictures of their kids on the wall, and you see them in the visiting room, and it's heartbreaking.
You thought, I do not want to be that guy.
Yeah. And especially once Nadia was pregnant, baby on the way, it's like, I've got to sort this shit out.
And that was that your driving force? Not necessarily, I'm going to be able to create a business that's going to sell for 20 million. Was your driving force, I want to support my family? Because I know you, during that period, you were like on housing benefit.
Yeah, exactly.
And you was getting, welfare. So you just, the passion to be self-sufficient was there.
That's exactly the phrase, is that self-sufficient, stand on my own feet, not relying on anyone else.
And I love that,
And that's all I wanted to do with the business. So I was a web developer, I could program stuff, and I realised quite quickly that accounting software is really crap. I was trying to do my own accounts, and the choices then were Sage or QuickBooks. And they were really clunky, they're designed for accountants. They're not incentivised to make them easy to use because they want to sell you a support contract for 600 quid.
Correct.
I thought, this is ridiculous. All I need to do is send an invoice, and either it's paid or not paid, and it's got sequential numbers. Because what I've done what a lot of people do. I've got a Word template, I fill it.
You start whatever number they big.
But then you've got 2 invoice sevens for the same amount, and then the man comes in the bank, it's like, okay, well, which one was
So
I only did something really, really simple, and I threw it together myself, moved on, and spoke to the other Princess Trust business, and I said, look, what are you guys using? Not because I wanted to give them this, because I wanted to find something decent. And they're like, oh, everything's crap, and I'm using a Word document. Well, what are you using? I said, oh, I've got this. Can I get a copy of that? Like, yeah, of course you can. And I won't get into the techie stuff, but it was basically an Access database. It was copy and paste. Another copy, another copy. And then it was through a number of different workshops the Princess Trust put on, and one of them was about selling a service versus selling a product. When you sell a product, you can make money while you sleep, right? If you're selling a service, you can only make money
while you service someone.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it.
Be careful, Lynn. Be careful.
But at this point, it's like, okay, and it clicked with me on one of these courses. So, okay, I need to find a product to sell. Now, what product could I need to develop a bit of software and sell it, and what could it possibly be? And we had this idea, that idea, and I wish I wrote down the other ideas at the time. It's like, and then there's this like invoicing tool I've built. A few people seem to like that. And so that was the plan. I've done a little mini business plan, and it had a name. It was called Lolly Mate.
We
were going to call it. We were trying to think of a good name. Lolly Mate.
Money, Lolly.
Slang for money. The other option was Spondoolies. No one knew how to spell it. So again, a lady called Rachel Rickards.
Now, though, because those are the kind of apps.
Drop the vowels as well, and it would be even better. But there's a lady called Rachel Rickards who worked at the Princess Trust that was one of those people that actually at multiple times stepped forward and just done a little introduction there, a little nudge there, and I remember being down the pub with her, and she said, look, it's a really great idea. You need to rethink the name. Lolly Mate is not a great name. And it ended up being cash flow with a K. And an uppercase F that to me was always important. But I saw PayPal got really funny about their second P is always uppercase. But it's good enough for PayPal, it's good enough for me. So yeah, it was a joke that it was a second offence to use a lowercase F.
So when did cash flow start to make real money where that desire had been fulfilled? I don't need government handouts anymore. I'm providing for my family.
So I think I probably got to that point fairly early on. So probably even pre-cash flow, where I was doing enough. So one of the delights was one of my early customers was Ben. Who was saying, you're charging me too much. And I was giving him a 20% discount over whatever I was charging. He's already getting
20%.
What about the 50? What about the 50 grand where he bailed you out? Did he make you pay that back?
So the 50 grand he got back, but there was interest on it, which I did pay back. And rightfully so, right? I mean, he's getting, there's a lot of interest on 50 grand. So I was paying that off and settled that. But yeah, so he was one of my clients and I had enough money coming in. The thing with the way non-software as a service businesses work is, yes, I've got enough money coming in this month and I should be all right next month. The following month, I haven't got a clue.
No idea.
And it always worked out, enough stuff come in, but with software as a service, and something I loved about it is the predictability. You know how much minimum you get
revenues
each month. It just renews and renews and renews.
And did you come up with that concept, or did you learn it from somebody else?
Well, I was a web developer.
So where's the business bit come from?
The easiest thing for me to do was to build a bit of software on the web. It's easier than doing it on a desktop like Sage or QuickBooks was. So I didn't have this foresight of cloud. It was around the time that Salesforce IPO'd, which I only knew in hindsight. But it was just pure luck that I happened to say, okay, I'm going to develop this on the web because it seems a natural place for it. And we were one of the first software as a service companies in the world, never mind the UK.
Yeah, that's right.
So I should have made a lot more money than 20 million being that early on, but there you go. And it just, it grew from there really, very slowly, but
It did all right. It did all right.
It did. I just wanted to, the introduction of Lord Young into the process with regards to a mentor, somebody that had grown businesses and knew how to move around in that space. How important was he to the entire process? Yeah,
incredibly. So again, that's Rachel Rickard's coming into the scene who I mentioned a minute ago. So it was Alan Sugar. I'm not sure if it was Lord Sugar or Sir Alan at that point. It was doing the official opening of what was then called an incubator unit. It was cheap office space in Hackney, in Mare Street. And Lord Young was the chair of the charity there, and I blagged my way in as the first tenant.
You've been doing a lot of blagging, haven't you?
So they phoned up. So this was London Youth Support Trust. It's changed its name now, and I should remember what it's called. It's got a new name now. But they were opening this building in Hackney and they needed someone to do the network cabling. So they phoned the Prince's Trust because they had this ethos of, well, let's use Prince's Trust ministers when we can. Someone at Prince's Trust said, computers, that's Duane.
Give it to him.
But I don't do network cabling, but I know a man that did.
I'll find someone who can.
Bundled into that.
They got in touch with me and said, oh, can you come and network this building? So I come and had a look and I said, well, yeah, I can do it. I said, but what's this all about? And, oh, yeah, discount office space, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, you're going to need someone to support the network, right? And they said, yeah, how much is that going to cost? I said, you can get it for free. Well, how do we get it free? I said, you give me an office for free. No, we can't do that. But they gave me an office for next to nothing. So I was the first tenant in there. So by the time they'd done the official opening, I'd already got Charlie Big Potatoes and had some other office. So I was a success story then, really. But yeah, Lord Young was the chair of that charity. And Rachel ensured that the two of us met at a certain point, and I showed him what I was working on. And he saw it, and he said at that point, he could really see, actually, this is a game changer from a technology point of view. He wasn't so sure I was the one to change the game, and he's been honest with me since. So he ended up putting 100K into business early on, and he since said to me, I really thought I was going to see you driving along the road 2 days later, new car, new clothes. You're like, I'll never see you again.
But you wanted to sell at that point, didn't you?
No, so that was a little bit later. And it was, again, Lord Young that talked me out of it and made me see sense. That was for 2 million, only 2 million.
And you thought that was lows, but he made you see the value.
Yeah, I'd take that now.
No, but when you're talking about the value of his business, he could, it's about, again, him being a mentor. He had the foresight to say, this is 2 million for you right now and it's massive, but I know what it could be.
What
so
he did,
he help you to
so he laid out to me, look, there's this path, and this is what I recommend you do. Look at these numbers. This is where this business is actually going without too much effort. You just carry on this trajectory. It's worth a lot more than this in the future, so you can see now why he's willing to pay that. Or here's the other path, where you do take the 2 million now, and I will do everything I can to get that deal done for you, support you, sell my shares, and we will get that deal done.
That's really good.
So you just extrapolated that out. And
but then he made it really easy. He said, and if you take the first option that we grow the business, I'll lend you 100 grand now, interest free. You pay me back if and when we ever sell the company.
Did he know that you needed that money?
I had about 75 grand of personal debt, double glazing and whatever else. So we'd actually, by that point, we're doing well enough that I'd got a 103% mortgage from Northern Rock. So,
Look, that's all right. It's all right.
Who offered the 2 million at first?
So a guy called Mike Jackson, who, funnily enough, I mentioned Sage. So he used to be chairman of Sage.
Chairman of Sage.
Yeah, he then moved on, was chairman of Party Gaming and a few other things, but it's Elder Street VCT.
So how did he take the knockback?
Well, it came back to me via somebody else that actually had introduced me to him. Alex Van Sommeren, Amadeus Capital now, said, Mike wanted me to let you know that he's not impressed that you wouldn't take his money, but you would take his name. Because, of course, I leaked it to the press.
Yeah.
Former chairman of Sage wanted to try and buy us. I made sure everyone knew.
Oh,
so
you
he wasn't
told
happy.
The press
Yeah.
that.
Well, I didn't. Someone did.
Someone did, allegedly.
Not you.
It got out.
It got out, exactly.
It got out.
This is the piece for me that's most interesting, right? Is the business ethics piece. Is the, you know, where's the line, you know, with regards to releasing that kind of information accidentally or otherwise.
Someone did.
You know, and then creating a competition, which you eventually did with Sage, that realistically didn't exist.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there was a gulf,
Yeah.
you know, in size and scope. And you somehow bridged that gap by creating this rhetoric around your business that you are in direct competition with the biggest players on the market.
Sage,
so, you know, with regards to the ethics of it, or the, you know, the moral, the wrong or right of it, where do you stand on that front?
So the way I tried to justify it to myself at the time with Sage, so before it really kicked off, and it did really kick off, we can get into the details of that, but they were threatening to sue me over a price comparison on my site, and this probably goes back to my sense of fairness, right? Yeah. So I had something on my site that compared our prices to their prices, and QuickBooks and everything. QuickBooks went to and said, that's out of order, you need to change that. And I looked at it and I thought, actually, you're right, I'm taking it.
Yeah.
I'm comparing deliberately to the wrong. I'll adjust it because actually we still look favourable anyway. And Sage then got in touch, oh, that's wrong, you need to change that, and that. And I said, look, 2 of your points are fair, and I've just made the change the other 3. No, I'm sorry. That's perfectly fair what I'm saying, there's nothing wrong with that. Well, and then they got all heavy with the legal stuff. And that was at around the same time. It's like, well, that was my justification, that they were being out of order towards me.
So fair play,
So
game on.
Yeah.
And also, no one got hurt, right? No one's reputation got damaged.
But could it have, though?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Could it have? It didn't. But what you did, could someone have got hurt in terms of their reputation? Mike Jackson, if he left Sage, or, you know.
Yeah, and it's not something I gave a lot of thought to at that point. It's really.
Would you do it again?
In that situation,
do you do it again? You know,
less so
is it a
now.
tactic that you've moved away from?
Yeah, because I don't need to now.
You've got 20 million now. Don't need to.
But also, even now, I can take that change back to a certain point, a phone call. So a company called SIF Media that run UK business forums, accounting web, and a few different award stuff. So we just a fair amount of advertising with them. And one of the guys, just a passing comment, so I think it's Andy I'm still in touch with, passing comment on the phone, trying to sell me some advertising. And he says, yeah, now that you guys are well known, and he paused and went, well, you're known, and he carried on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, so we're actually against the point where we're notorious. Yeah. And actually, it was more me that was known for being gobshite, rather than the company being known for having a good product. Yeah. And it was more important that the company was known for having a good product
than the other way.
Than me, So there was off the back of that one phone call with Andy North, I think I then changed my whole approach to how I market it, because also I knew at that point, at some point I'm going to want to sell this. I don't want to do this forever. And you don't want to be, or I don't want to be personally too tied in with the company, because if someone comes along like, well, you haven't got a company without you, and you're going to be tied in for 5 years, or actually we don't want to buy it at all, because actually it's all about you.
So, but you make so light of this, right? But these are quite big strategic decisions around business. So it's like...
That's led to the success.
Yeah, so creating software as a service, making sure that you are not integral to the brand, more so than the running the business. These are all massive business things. So I'm imagining some young 18-year-old kid, really enthusiastic, but might have taken a wrong couple of turns in life, right? They're looking at your story and they're seeing the holidays and all the other trappings that everyone wants to talk about. Yeah. How do they learn this stuff? How did you learn this stuff? Is it impossible to become a businessman in today's age, because you're still making money, you're still doing your companies, you're still having lots of success?
I've probably made more since selling that business
than any time before. Yeah. What are you saying to those kids that you go back in and speak to via the Prince's Trust and other? What is it about business?
So I remember saying to Laura Jung early on, when this, so it's post that 2 million conversation, even at that point, there's only a couple of people in the company, and it grew to 5 people pretty quickly. I was like, shit, this is scary. I've got 5 people. I remember saying to him, look, I'm probably the right guy for now, this 5-person company that's very... When we get to a real business, 10 people, you probably need someone else. Yeah. Like, okay, And he knew what he was doing. He's like, okay, we'll talk about when we get there. And we get there, and I'm like, okay, I've learned a few lessons over the last 6 months, and I'm probably all right while we're 10 people, but when we get to 15, and of course it went all the way through to 40 people, the point is you learn a little bit each time. It's like, you don't throw someone in a car and say, right, you're now going to drive to Scotland, and they've never driven.
Never driven before.
You have a driving lesson first, right?
Yeah.
You go out, or your dad might take you out for a spin, or then you do a little bit up and down, then you do a little bit of motorway, and that's scary.
Yeah.
But you learn a bit of lane
night
discipline.
driving.
Yeah. It's exactly the same with business. You're not going to go from green as anything through to making a strategic decision that we're not going to work with international.
But where do these kids get that? Because you're not going to say to them, do you know what? Do a bit of this to juggle, as we know juggling.
Yeah, for me, it's like the truth of you've said quite a few times, oh, I blagged this, I blagged that, I put a few lies on the CV, I made sure that the media were aware of what happened with Sage.
I'm starting to feel bad about it now. I'm looking back at those decisions thinking, actually, do
you know what? It's all, but this is really...
But this is real life, though.
Because
it's real life.
If you didn't, let's say, do a bit of blagging, let the media know however it did, you may not have got to where you got to. So would you, let's say Princess Trust say, do you know what, we want you to come into the prisons, have a chat about your journey and how can they do it? Would you be frank and honest to say, do you know what, I'm going to be honest, it wasn't just ABC, there was a bit of wheeling and dealing here, there was a bit of blagging there, and if I didn't do that blagging, which may not be all morally sound, I wouldn't have been so successful. How can you say that without encouraging them to do the wrong thing?
Yeah, that's true. And actually, so I do that with the Princess Trust, and the Princess Trust brief you, look, don't go in there making these guys think it's going to be really easy.
Okay.
Because you can't set them up to fail. They need to hear warts and all. They need to hear the tough bits as well. So when I go into them, I do tell them that that's what it is. But actually, they don't mind cutting some corners to get where they need to get. When you're from that background, if that's what you need to do, that's what you need to do to get there. And
it is encourage.
Yeah, if you personally are okay with what you're doing, everyone's got their own moral compass, and some people might go, actually, that was bang out of order what you did to Mike Jackson leaking because it's whatever. But he's forgotten about it. He don't care. He's moved on, and I've made a shitload of money off the back of it because it was one step in there.
In a journey.
Yeah, where's the loss exactly?
Where's the loss?
Yeah. Well, so there is a line. Do you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where it is. I'm not saying I've not found it, but.
What I noticed very early on in the conversation is about, you were talking about the financial difficulties you were under, particularly at the early stages of your relationships, etc. How did you, what learnings have you got from that front? Because I see it, quite commonly at the moment with youngsters coming through that they've got this inability to manage their finances, and it's not a conversation that, often adults and parents
or schools.
Yeah, so I wish schools did more financial management type stuff.
How can we get to a place where actually we're helping youngsters firstly manage the money that they've either got or haven't got, so they don't get to a place that 2 or 3 years into their adult life, they're struggling. That's a big factor.
And I think that's probably the simplest change that can be made sort of at a national level that have the biggest impact, which is teaching more financial, and forget entrepreneurship, that's the next level, but the first thing is financial management.
So what do they need to know?
Do you think about materialism
what do they need to know?
The real cost of credit, when you borrow money, how that works, and so I remember at 16 on sort of friends' mums' catalogues and getting this, that, and the other, and you're paying a fortune for this stuff.
I remember
It goes back to perception. It's like I know a lot of young people, or people in general, not even young myself. You might see someone with all the watches, the trainers, and they're a rapper, and they've just about got 500k in the bank. Whereas, don't take this the wrong way, you don't look like 20 million.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Based on just some jeans, casual top, and I think if people saw that, they wouldn't be in a rush to spend money they don't have on things that aren't necessarily important.
Yeah, and it's difficult because it is that sort of the immediate satisfaction. They want this thing, they want it now.
Today.
Yeah. But then in terms of self-worth as well, and I think a lot of people battle with this, even up with myself, is how can you say, I'm worth 2 million. No, I'm worth 6.5 million. No, actually, I'm worth 20.
Yeah.
Whereas you might not even be worth 2 million. Yeah. So at what point do you say, what am I worth? Because I'm sure if Lord Young, your mentor, didn't say to you, hold off, you might have sold it for 2 million.
Yeah, probably.
And not got 20 million.
But the point is, it's not me, it's that.
It's that.
That's the difference.
That's really important.
Yeah, exactly. So I was never... So people.
So you're not attached to.
No, exactly. It's something that I'm building. It's and some people do have this. Oh, it's my baby. No, my 3 babies are at home. That ain't my baby.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
So what drives you then?
For a long time, it's proven people wrong. Even if I don't go back and knock on the door and go, look what I've done.
Yeah.
It's
that 20% guy. Yeah.
I love that told you so much.
I love that.
But there is, that's always been a big driver for me.
But that's done now.
Yeah.
You could be on your own island somewhere, chilling out forever. Why are you still in it?
Do you want to top Cash flow, 20 million?
No, not really. So something I learned quickly, right? You fly economy, you go, oh, business class looks nice, doesn't it? And then you go business class, you go, oh, first class looks nice.
Yeah.
I got to go on someone's private jet a while back, and she, the wife of the owner, was saying, yeah, it's a nice jet, but that one over there, the interior, they spent 3 million on their interior. We only spent 1.5 an hour, and it shows.
It never stops. It never stops, does it?
And then it's like, what kind of jet you've got? So it just never stops.
I'm still working towards business.
So what is it? What is it then?
What is what?
What's driving you?
What now?
Because you could just stop.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. And I did for a while, and it's bloody boring. I look at Law Jung. So he's 86 now. He ain't stopping. He's not stopping. He said, and he said to me, look, and even when I sold a business, he says, you've got to go and get a job. You've got to find something to do. I said, well, why? He said, otherwise, whenever you talk to me, you're going to be moaning about this illness, that illness, because what else is going on in your life other than you worrying about your achy leg like all his mates? He's saying, I don't talk to a lot of my mates because they're bloody boring now, because they've got nothing going on in their life.
And so many people say that, like on social media and everything now, you see like, oh, I'm going to retire by 35 and not work. And it's like, okay, then what?
It's not even then what. So even on that first bit, so I've spoken to people that say that, right? I'm going to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30, an 18-year-old. Okay, great. How?
No idea.
And it's like, okay, well, forget the million. How are you going to make the first 100? No, okay, the first 10. Because that's all, to make a million, you just got to make 10 grand.
Is that it?
You've got to make some more, and then you've got to make some more. Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah.
So tell us some of the things that you have done then that you're proud of, those moments from a business perspective, because we know you love your family, we know you love your missus, the kids and everything. That's all. What's it with regards to your business, the things that you hold up and say, actually, that was all right?
Actually, the first time, so as soon as anyone says the moment you're proud of, this is the same thing that always comes back to me. And I can see it in my head as I'm sitting in a room at home. I've just sold the business and I've just clicked transfer on the computer for 100 grand to the Prince's Trust. And it's like, oh, what's that weird feeling?
Whoa.
Yeah.
And it was pride. And it's the first time I've actually gone, wow, without batting an eyelid, 100 grand, but there you go, to a charity that had helped me through it. And that was the first time, really.
And you saw the benefits.
Yeah, well, that I felt pride in actually, I could do that. It's like.
And how are you now passing out? Because that's obviously, that was very powerful for you.
Yeah.
Not only just being able to, the monetary things but actually to be able to say thank you in a way.
The gesture of
to the organisation that was instrumental in your work. What are you doing now in terms of paying that back, paying it forward, the stuff that you've got?
So the stuff I really like doing is with the Prince's Trust, going and talking to groups of sort of 8 to 10 people that are interested in starting a business and telling them, look, if you go down this route for the next 2 years, you'll be better off flipping burgers in terms of money you're going to make. So if you think you're going to be a billionaire in 2 years, don't do this. Yeah. And if that puts people off, good, it should put them off, because they're not cut out to do it in the first place. Those that go either, that's fine, I'm cool with that, or no, fuck you, actually, I'm going to make a million.
Exactly.
Good, you've got the drive.
That's what you need,
But the other thing I'm doing is something called Code 4000.
Okay.
So I wrote the book, sort of my whole story of growing up in care through to building and selling the business. And that was called 4,000 Days, because it was roughly 4,000 days from when I got out of prison to when I sold. And now I've got a charity. I say I've got it. Other people do all the work. Actually, the driving force behind it. It's specifically a guy called Michael Taylor, who was his brainchild is the driving force. But we go into prisons and teach prisoners how to program and get them jobs in the industry when they get out. Fantastic. And so far, we've had 0 recidivism. And in fact, it's the same thing. When I was running cash flow, we couldn't put the truth on our marketing because you wouldn't believe it. No. The truth was people saying, you're not going to believe this. I now enjoy doing my accounts. Like, yeah, fuck off. No one's going to believe it.
Shut up.
And it's the same now. We can't put on, I start 0 recidivism. 0 reoffending.
Yeah. That's also a word Lynn tried to say it the other day.
But no one's going to believe that we've had a 0%. People go, well, your numbers are too small. Well, they're not. We've had
how many people have you taken through the programme?
So I should have a better handle. I couldn't even see how many prisons we're in now.
It's just grown so much now.
It's grown to the point where our last board meeting is like, we have to slow this down and really refine what we're doing. Because in startups, you can screw up.
Yeah.
You can get yourself up, dust yourself down. With that, not only is it people's lives you're messing with, it's also in government, you don't get a second chance. You screw up. And the whole lockdown thing hasn't helped. But we had a fair number of people come through, and some of them, so Metro Bank have been really great with placing some of the graduates, but the ones that I'm really happy about when they get out and set up their own thing. Yeah.
No negativity towards Network Rail, but it's like, well, I'm not that sort of person. What else is there? The choice is available. And it might not make everyone tick. So
there needs to be less fear of the Daily Mail. So much good stuff doesn't happen because people are scared what the Daily Mail are going to say when they hear about it. And that's in government, that's in charities, that's in the public sector. It's always, but how would the Daily Mail spin it?
You mean employing people from prison? They're scared of getting...
So prisons, there are a lot of people in the prison system and in government that think we should spend more money on rehabilitation of people while they're in prison. Okay, but how are you going to stand up in front of whoever at the Daily Mail and justify that that we're giving this opportunity to this guy that mugged a load of people and blah, blah, blah.
And none
Whereas
to
this guy
someone
that's
who
behaving
hasn't
himself
done
in his life
anything.
isn't getting opportunity.
Let's say a person who reads the Daily Mail, though. Let's say I'm.
Why are you doing that for?
I said, let's say. I was waiting for you to jump down my throat. I said, let's say I'm a person who reads the Daily Mail.
But you know that's you, though, innit?
Moving on swiftly, and I see that there's been a grant given to a guy, a little shit that keeps on going to prison, and let's say I don't have a lot in the bank.
Yep.
I've got 4 children, no father, and my child has been crying out for some sort of funding. He's never been arrested. That would piss me off. That
But
a
can
person,
I just hold that
I'm still speaking to you.
You are.
That a person that has gone through the prison system has all of this support now financially, where my son's been a really good boy and he's got nothing. So I can understand that point of view. But then I suppose how you would sell it would be, but if he keeps coming back to prison, that's taxpayers' money.
Yeah, exactly. The economic argument's there. There's no doubt about that. It just doesn't make a good headline.
But you're making an assumption that the cake is that small, that there's one little fighting bit of cake for people who need social help. It's ridiculous. Look at the amount of money that's been printed recently. It can be found. And if you focused on the right thing, because I'd much rather talk about prevention, what are we doing about stopping these kids getting excluded? The rate of individuals getting excluded from school, going straight through. When you're 18 out of care, you just fall off a cliff and they say, you're 18 now, look after yourself.
But would you say about what? Okay, but then what about? We always say, what are we doing? What's the government doing? But would you say you've gone through the care system and you were interested in coding at an early age? Would you say that there's from parents, they don't take a keen interest in these different sorts of other ways of making money or being an entrepreneur? They're just like, study your books, maths, English and science. Okay, what does that look like? So do you think there's something where parents are not assisting driving young people into these alternative?
Yeah, but then you've got to say, is it all down to the parents? Do we say it's the parent, I blame the parents, simply, or is it a societal problem that actually, when you structurally put stuff in place for? So where I grew up, and you probably know community links as well, right?
No, very well. I did a lot of work.
So stuff like that, there's lots of opportunity that, for numerous reasons, your parents may or may not be in a position to do that, and there's stuff going on in their lives as well. It can be alcoholism, dependency, abuse, relationships,
or no knowledge.
Of stuff. Yeah, and so then you can't say, well, if the parents, it just then becomes a cycle again and again. Yeah. So you do need stuff like community links and other charities to step in and Prince's Trust and to help out, and for stuff to be, it's how else do you get to those kids? If the parents aren't doing it, and you're right, a lot of them aren't, how else do we do it? Because I don't think beating up the parents saying you need to do that is the solution.
So to encapsulate in the shortest possible form, you said from when you was earning £50 an hour, you didn't know how to manage your money, then you've gone from a successful business owner, then selling that. How would you tell somebody, let's say, I want to get involved in coding, I'm a bit talented, but I do not know where to start. Where would be my first point of how to start?
There's something online called Lambda School, which is, they'll teach you to code, and I think I'm right in saying, so check it out, but you don't pay anything. It's like a student loan until you get a job in the industry, and then when you get a job in the industry, then you start paying back, and you pay a pretty penny for it.
What's that called?
Lambda, Lambda School. And it's very big in the States, but you can also do it anywhere because it's largely done online. So the last 6 months would have been a great time to be doing it. But you've got to push yourself forward and you've got to go out there and you've got to make it happen yourself is the key to it. It's all about having your own plan. Not everyone, it's an overstatement. A lot of people I grew up with are where they are now in life, good, positive or indifferent, because that's where they landed. That's where the wind blew them. They had no plan.
So a lot of luck, would you say?
Well, it could be good luck, it could be bad luck, but you are where you are because that's where the wind blew you. You were part of someone else's plan, maybe on the periphery, and then this happened and that happened, and this is where you now are. I realised when I was in prison, I was there because of decisions I took, consciously or subconsciously. I took decisions to do this, that, and the other. And because of that, A, B, C, that's where you end up.
So you took full responsibility for where you
and it goes back to a very specific instance to do with mushrooms, which is a whole crazy story in prison. And I mean the proper mushrooms.
The proper ones,
that we all end up getting a bollocking from one of the screws. We're all going to lose our jobs. The jobs we had in prison, that would have been sort of transformational because we had really cushy jobs. I've been there a while. It was a cushy little number on the Isle of Wight. And Matt, like, how did I end up where this person's got all this power over me? And if she decides tomorrow I've got to move out the cell I'm in and all the privileges I've got up are gone. How have I ended up here? Not as a rhetorical question, seriously, how have I ended up here? And when you're doing time, you're going to press pause on your life, you get a lot of time to think. And I go, okay, this is how I end up here because I did that, that and that. So hang on, I am where I am because of what I did, right? So if you're a bit more, and it could be, you can use your powers for good or bad, right? If you're a bit more thoughtful about where you want to go, and you're a bit more decisive about it and you plan about it, you can end up there. If that's what you're aiming for, take steps that will get you there. And I think that's largely
really
how I end up where I am.
Because there's a lot of missing accountability though. When I say to people, what about you
can't
decided
do that because I lose my benefits.
Yeah, or not just, it's like, you know, I've come from a really poor background, selling drugs was my only way, but then that's their excuse. But where's the accountability?
But if they've been selling drugs, that's some good training because you're buying stuff in bulk, right? And then you break it into smaller pieces and selling it at profit to other people. You're taking calculated risks of when you pick up, when you don't pick up. Are there old people on that street you're in with?
You're judging people.
You've got strategic alliances. You've got people. You're managing credit sometimes.
But
it's still credit.
So change the product, basically.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to make as much money, but you're not going to have anyone knocking on the door taking it away from you.
And you can sleep.
Yeah.
You can sleep.
Just a caveat, you know, for anyone
you say that.
No, we're not.
That's the.
No, but going back to making
entrepreneurial drug dealing.
You say that you won't make as much money, but people that I know of that make a lot of money, a lot of them don't own houses, a lot of them have lost it, a lot of them, and then they don't factor in as a business. When you said taking risks into consideration, they don't think, okay, the risk is I might spend 5 years inside. I'm not making any money for those 5 years. So when I average out 10 years that I made loads of money in the first 5 years, have I really made that money where I made none inside for 5 years? Or I got kidnapped and that got taken, or the police took 50 grand. How much money are you really making now?
Someone said to me, save money and it will save you. That's the thing they always said, save money, it will save you. But your mentality is, find a problem, solve it, and then make some money, more money out of it.
For me, it's always have a plan on everything. Have a plan.
Do you regret anything?
No, because I always think that was regret as would I change it? Would I have done it differently?
Okay, would you have changed something?
No, because I wouldn't be where I am now, and I'm very happy with where I am now.
Are you content? Are you content?
Yeah,
you are.
Yeah. The thing is, when you make a load of money, you take away something you can blame for problems in your life. Yeah. You can blame a lot of stuff on not having money. So when someone takes that away, if you have got any problems, then relationship problems and whatever, they're going to be there. They're exposed, and you can't blame the money because there's a big pile of it. So you have to work for all that stuff. And so relationship-wise, home-wise, what I'm doing myself now, sort of work-wise, I wouldn't change.
So being content, does that mean that it removes some of your ambition?
Yeah.
So you're not as ambitious anymore?
No.
So and I've got
a new business now that I know got massive potential.
Yeah.
I can't be bothered.
Can't be bothered?
I'll get someone else in to come and do it and I'll work with them. The hard work that's needed for the next 2 years on that business to take it from a seed. Yeah, exactly. You've got to have that hunger and that drive.
Because your family's fed now.
Two different things.
It's what?
It's because your family's fed now.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what drove you initially, to feed your family. They're fed, so it's
and then also to prove it. And also, you get to a certain level of wealth where another 5 million ain't going to make a difference. To step up again, you need to make 100 million.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would do that.
You need a plan. That's what you need.
You need a plan.
You need a plan, but you also need a desire. And you know what? 100 million. What you're arguing about private jets?
Yeah, it just gets silly, doesn't it?
Argument worth having.
No, exactly.
Dwayne,
few
I'm
holidays
really sorry
nice.
to. Look, it's been a brilliant conversation. So thank you.
No problem.
I'm sure that you guys have enjoyed it as much as I have.
Amazing. I'm glad that we got to know.
Need a part 2. There's so many other things in there.
We'll forget the mushrooms. We'll talk about that over there. But I'm glad that we got to know a bit more about your story than just one chapter in your life.
Yeah.
And actually to hear about the things that you've done that has transformed other people's lives now, that's really empowering because lots of people have taken the money and shelved it away and you never hear about it. And I don't judge them, that's their choice. But you've deliberately chosen to replicate the mentorship that helped you, but also focus on helping others to solve problems. And that's a massive...
A lot of that, there's people around me who wouldn't forgive me if I didn't. People like Laura Jung and a lot of other people helped me through the trust. A lot of people helped me on the way up, so I feel obligated.
No, but you don't run from it. You could have hidden. If you wanted, you could have hidden, right? Let's be clear. But you didn't do that. And I think the one thing I've learned about people with money, it accelerates the bits of you that are inside you. So if you were a bit of an idiot, you'd be more of an idiot because you can afford to be more.
I can imagine that.
See what I mean? So I think more power to you and thanks for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.